Database management systems. Knowingly or unknowingly, daily we are using database management systems. For example, if you have some email account, then in order to sign in or log in, what you do? You will type your email ID and then password. So email ID and password, these are stored in a database, which is actually installed in a server, right? Similarly, take a college as an example, or college as an example. Number of students, right? So every student has a student number, register number, then student name, then age, email ID, then phone number, all these things. Many years back, people used to write all these things in books, but to find out a particular name, it's very difficult if we write all these things in books. But the another solution for this one is to use DBMS, database management systems. If we use DBMS, we can store a lot of data in that DBMS, and at the same time searching is also very easy. To understand what DBMS is, first we should know what data is, right? We will see the definition of data first, then the difference between data and information, and then what is database, and finally what is database management system. So in this way we are going to start this class with small definitions, and then we will see the structure of DBMS also.
Now let's see the introduction part of DBMS. We are going to discuss these topics today. First one is introduction. Then we see the definition of data and the definition of information, the difference between data and information. Then we see the definition of database, and then we see the definition of database management system. So in this way we start with the definition of data first, then the definition of database, then the definition of database management system. And we also we're going to see the structure of DBMS, and finally we see some of the objectives of DBMS. Now we are going to see this introduction part. Nowadays, databases they play a very important role in almost all fields like education field, science, business, then in transport, economy, tourism. See, in almost every field, we use databases because we need to store the information somewhere. Nowadays, we are using computers just to store the information. So long back, people used to write all the details of students or all the details in books. But to maintain those physical books, it's very difficult. But now we are using computers to store almost all information. So without DBMS, then manual entry. That's what I said. If one person is sitting in on a desk and writing everything on a book in a book, then it's very difficult. So without DBMS, generally manual entry to store the information would have taken so much of time. Now let us see the difference between data and information. What is data? So this is the definition of data. Data refers to raw facts. Actually, the meaning of this word raw, raw means uncooked, right? Here, raw means unprocessed, unprocessed data or unprocessed fact is called data. Now here, processed data is called information. That is the main difference between data and information. Data refers to a raw fact, whereas information refers to the processed data. Let me tell you one example to understand this. Now here I am typing 20, 40, 100, maths, right. See, this is data. Then information, processed data. There is a student called Roy with the age 20. Then he studies one subject, maths, maximum marks of maths 100, and he got 40. See, this is no, this is information, processed data. Then second point, individual data unit does not carry any specific meaning. If you see here 20, 40, what is 20, what is 40? Here these two are some numbers. These are all some numbers and characters which represents something, but it doesn't carry any information. If I say 2040, what is 2040? We do not know here, but after processing it gets some meaning. So Roy with the age 20 and maths is the subject, then maximum marks 140. This is processed data and this is raw data. Then third point, in the form of characters, letters, numbers or anything. So here data is in the form of numbers or some characters. Then it is properly arranged data. So it is properly arranged data. This one, this is properly arranged one, this entire thing. Okay, then no dependency. Here it depends on data. Yes, this one, this information depends on this data. Next, final point is data cannot be used for decision making. If something is like this, which is very difficult to understand this one unless it is processed. But processed data, which is called information, can be used for decision making. So here it is the difference between data and information. Just remember that data refers to raw facts, whereas this information is processed data. This is the important point which you need to remember. Then you see, the data in DBMS can be broadly classified into two types. One is the collection of information needed by the organization, and the other one is metadata, right? So here two types of data we have. One is the collection of information. Just now we saw that every organization, especially if you take a college as an example, that college has to store the information of students. Then one data is the collection of information, right? This is one type of data, and the other type of data is metadata. These two are two types of data, and this metadata is also called as data about data. In a database we store the students information, that is collection of information, and at the same time uh, we store metadata, data about the data. Then we will see later. No, you need not worry. Even if you cannot understand the meaning of metadata, we are going to see in the next chapters. Then permanent storage of data are actually called as uh, persistent data. You need to remember this word, persistent. Persistent means permanent. So if you store some data in a database, we should store it permanently, right? We don't store the data temporarily, right? So persistent is the meaning of this word. Persistent means uh, permanent. Permanent and persistent, these two are having the same meaning. Generally, the data which we store in a database is persistent. Then let us see the definitions: data, database, and database management system. Just now we saw the definition of data, right? So data means it is a collection of raw facts, right? So this is a collection of raw facts. This is the meaning of data. Now, what is database? A database is an organized collection of data so that it can be easily accessed, managed, and updated. Now, data means it is a raw fact. Then a database is an organized collection of data. That is, it stores some information. Database stores some information, and we can easily access that information, and at the same time we can update the information, we can delete the information, we can insert some more information. So a lot of things we can do on a database. So what we need to remember here is it is a collection of data, not just a simple collection. It is an organized collection, very similar to the information. Now finally, what is DBMS? DBMS is actually a software. Means we know that software means set of programs, right? Software means set of programs. So DBMS is a set of programs which is designed to store the information, retrieve the information, and manage the information in a database. So these three definitions you need to remember. Then here, a DBMS, it consists of collection of related data and a set of programs to access the data. Just now I told you what is DBMS. DBMS is a software which is used to actually manage the data. Now we can do one thing. We can write a formula like this. What is DBMS? DBMS is equal to the collection of interrelated data plus some software, some software to manage the data. Now, a DBMS is a general purpose software. It is not application specific. For example, you can use the same DBMS for to store the details of employee in an office, and to store the information of library management, or to store the information of books in a library of a college. And these things you can store in the same DBMS. For example, this Oracle can be used to store the details of or the data of employee, and at the same time, the same software Oracle can be used to store the books in a college. So it is a general purpose software. DBMS takes care of storing and accessing data, leaving only application specific tasks to application programs. So DBMS, it takes care of just how to store the data and how to access the data. It takes care of storing and accessing. But what we need to do is we need to write some programs, application programs we will be writing. Then let us see the structure of DBMS. Here, users they can directly access the database management system, which in turn accesses the database. So actually we are separating these two things here. Database means which stores the data. Here the entire data is stored here, and what it does, database management system, it actually, it is a software which stores data in a database. So data plus software is called database management system. this database management system software which helps the users to store their data in the database, right? And at the same time, we can write some application programs which can access the database through a database management system by using the database management systems. So users can directly access the database through DBMS or else through some database applications. And finally, we see the objectives of DBMS. The main objectives of DBMS are these four things: data availability, data integrity, security, and independence. Let us see these four things one by one. First one is data availability. Data availability means the data should be made available to a variety of users. Yes, the data should be available. Whenever some user wants to access the data should be available. That is called data availability. Then the data that are available should be in a meaningful format. Yes, in DBMS, we don't store data as we like, right? Raw data. No, no, no. We store data in a meaningful format, in a meaningful way, in a processed way, at a reasonable cost so that the users can easily access the data. What is the meaning of availability? Data availability means the data should be available to all users. Variety of users means different types of users. We will be looking at different types of users in the next coming classes. Then data integrity. Data integrity. Data integrity means the correctness of the data. So data which is stored in a database must be correct. There should not be any mismatch. If the data is stored in 2 3 places, then there may be a mismatch. But here, the data which is stored in multiple sites must be correct. In other words, the data available in the database is a reliable data. Reliable means the data on which we can depend. So integrity means the correctness of data. Then security, data security. So we can know the meaning of security. We know the meaning of security rights, right? Security means only are authorized users. Only the authorized users can access the data. So unauthorized users cannot access the data. So database management system must provide some username, password like thing to access the data. So data security can be enforced by passwords, and those users or those people who have some username and password can only access the data. Then finally, data independence. Here, this concept also we are going to look at this concept data independence in a very deeper way in the coming classes. And we know that DBMS allows the users to store the information, retrieve the information, and update the data in an efficient manner. And at the same time, DBMS provides an abstract view. Abstract means hiding the internal details, right? Hiding the implementation details. The users may not know the implementation details, means how the data is stored, where the data is stored. Users need not know, end users. They need not know how to where the data is stored and how it is stored. The system hides certain details of how the data are stored and maintained. So this is called data independence. There are two types of data independences: physical data independence and logical data independence. Those things we will be discussing in the coming classes. Thank you.